Hey friends, before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more stories just like this. Your support means everything. The fluorescent lights above my hospital bed hummed like a swarm of tired bees, casting a cold glow over the pale walls of the clinic in southern Austria. Snow drifted softly outside the window, gathering on the sill in small quiet mounds. Winter had settled over the valley days ago, and the town of Hallstatt, with its slate roofs and narrow lanes hugging the lake, looked postcard perfect, at least from afar. Up close, there were cracks, always cracks. I lay there, half conscious, a sharp burn under my ribs from the construction accident that had nearly crushed me. Doctors spoke in hushed German tones around me, their voices blurring in and out like radio waves caught in a storm. And then I heard her. My wife, Laura. "Stop his treatment," she said. Calm, cool, almost bored. "He can't afford this surgery anyway." A beat of silence. Then a doctor stammered. "Frau Fischer, the injury is severe. Without the procedure?" I said stop. Her heels clicked against the floor as she stepped closer to my bed. Let him wake up on his own, or not. I felt something hot, acidic, crawl up my throat. Rage, disbelief, heartbreak. They mixed together until I could hardly breathe through them. I forced my eyes open. I replied. My voice cracked like old wood. "I can hear you, Laura." She didn't flinch, didn't gasp, didn't even look guilty. She simply folded her arms, the soft wool of her beige coat brushing her chin-length hair. "Well," she said, "then you already know why this is better for both of us." That moment, her coldness, her calculation, burned itself into my bones. But it wasn't the beginning, no. That part of the story had started years before, buried under polite smiles, shared dinners, and the kind of love that slowly poisoned you until you couldn't tell whether the ache in your chest was affection or rot. Laura came from old money. In Austria, that still meant something. The kind of generational wealth that echoed through centuries of land ownership, family crests, and heirlooms locked behind glass. Her parents, Klaus and Maren, lived in a sprawling estate overlooking vineyards near Graz. They always treated me like an oddity, a charity case. A construction worker with calloused hands and a simple upbringing from the mountainside village outside Hallstatt. I was beneath Laura, in their eyes. She married down. She liked to remind me of that. But when we'd first fallen in love, she hadn't seemed to care. She said my steadiness grounded her. She said she envied how I loved without calculating the cost. She said many things, most of which, I later realized, were lies dressed beautifully enough to pass as truth. The real fracture began after her father's stroke 2 years ago. I should control more of the estate. She'd whispered to me in our dim kitchen one night. The Alps silhouetted through the window. "Mother will give everything to my brother if I don't prove I can be responsible." "And what does that have to do with me?" I'd asked. She smiled, a thin, sharp thing. "You'll see." I did. Slowly, she pushed me to downsize my business. Then she convinced me to sign certain joint accounts. She encouraged me to take on a risky renovation project that required loans under my name. I trusted her, foolishly, completely. Step by step, she nudged me toward financial ruin while her inheritance grew more secure. I didn't realize the trap until it snapped shut. And now, lying in this hospital, with pain sawing through my ribs and betrayal choking me, I understood. Laura needed me either powerless or gone, preferably gone. A grieving widow looked even more responsible and sympathetic to the family board handling estate transitions. The thought sliced deeper than the injury ever could. She didn't love me. She never had. But she underestimated something. In the village where I grew up, we learned that revenge wasn't loud. It didn't explode. It simmered. Slow, patient. Like water heated over an old iron stove until the room fogged with inevitable consequence. When I was discharged, still bruised, still aching, snow had thickened over the town. The cobblestone streets glittered under lantern light, and the lake lay still, dark as oil. Everyone I passed offered nods of sympathy. News traveled fast in small places. Lara walked slightly ahead of me, as if embarrassed to be seen with her recovering husband. At home, she prepared tea. Not for me, she never made me tea, but for herself. I watched her stir honey into the steaming mug with a delicate silver spoon, her movements elegant and mechanical. "You'll need to return to work soon," she said without looking at me. I can barely lift my arm. "Then you need to heal faster." Her cup clicked lightly against the counter. She didn't ask about the pain, didn't ask about the nightmares, didn't ask why I'd been quieter since waking in that hospital room where she'd practically offered me to death. I stared at her, really stared, memorizing every cold angle of her face, every soft lie she'd ever told me disguised behind those blue eyes. She misread my silence. "Don't look at me like that, Daniel. You knew what you were marrying into." Did I? I once believed I did. Revenge is never a single act. It is a path. And every path begins with a first deliberate step. My step arrived in the form of a secret Lara had forgotten I knew. Her brother, Henrik, the golden child of the family, had a gambling problem. One their mother hid to avoid scandal. Years ago, Henrik had begged me to help him settle a debt. I'd kept his secret. I shouldn't have. Now I didn't intend to. While Lara slept under our thick Austrian wool blankets, I slipped into the spare room we used as a study. Moonlight stretched across the hardwood, pale and cold. I opened my old metal lockbox, the only possession Lara hadn't demanded joint control over, and retrieved the notebook where Henrik had signed an agreement acknowledging what he owed me. His signature was unmistakable, a perfect weapon. I knew exactly where to strike. Vienna in winter has a particular sting, a wind that whips down the Danube and through the narrow alleys like it has a personal grudge. I made the 3-hour train ride alone, pressing my forehead against the window as the snowy countryside passed by. Evergreen forests dusted white, small villages huddled against the cold, fields sleeping until spring. Henrik met me at a coffee house in the Innere-Stadt, one of those historic places with velvet seats and marble tables. His anxiety was obvious. He kept smoothing down his expensive coat, glancing at the door every few seconds. "What are you doing here?" he hissed. "We need to talk." "If this is about the old loan." "It is." He swallowed hard. "I'm willing to forget the money," I said, "in exchange for information." "What kind of information?" "About your sister." His eyes flickered, nervous, guilty. "Henrik," I said quietly, leaning forward. "She tried to let me die." He didn't argue, didn't deny it. That alone confirmed more than he realized. "What do you want to know?" he murmured. "Everything." And he told me. Family board politics, hidden accounts, assets Lara planned to claim, manipulations she'd orchestrated, lies she'd fed their mother, documents she'd forged, people she'd bought, a web so intricately woven that I began to see just how long she'd been preparing her rise to control the Fisher estate. But hidden in Henrik's rambling was the most important revelation. Lara couldn't inherit if she was legally found guilty of marital fraud or financial coercion. The board valued image above all else. And I now possessed more than enough evidence to scorch her spotless reputation. As I left the cafe, snow began to fall again. Soft at first, then heavier, swirling around street lamps like drifting ghosts. I tightened my scarf, feeling warmth flicker in my chest. Not comfort, purpose. Over the next weeks, I worked quietly, patiently, like a man restoring an old house, stripping away rot piece by piece, until the truth lay bare beneath. I met with a lawyer in Salzburg, an old friend of my father's. I gathered bank statements, copies of messages Lara had sent me encouraging financial moves clearly meant to sabotage my business. The hospital report documenting her attempt to halt my treatment, though the doctors hadn't filed a complaint. One of the nurses privately confirmed what she'd heard. Every detail became a brick in the case I was building. And through it all, Lara acted as if nothing had changed. She went to charity luncheons, wine tastings, estate meetings. She fussed over her coat collection and complained about the dreariness of mountain winters. We shared a house, but not a life. Not anymore, maybe not ever. But revenge, as I'd been taught, required waiting. Then came the night she crossed a line she didn't know existed. She accused me of faking my pain to avoid work. "You're pathetic," she snapped. "You always were." "And you," I said softly, "are predictable." She blinked, confused. Good. Confusion was the beginning of fear. The climax came during the annual Fisher Winter Gala, a lavish event held at her family's estate, with chandeliers dripping gold light over tuxedos and gowns, classical music humming through the halls, and vineyards outside wrapped in frost. I arrived alone. Lara had gone ahead earlier to prepare, assuming I'd be late or absent. But I walked in upright, wearing my best suit, injuries healed enough for me to carry myself with confidence. As the orchestra played a waltz, I crossed the marble floor and approached the center of the room, where the board members mingled with donors and relatives. Lara saw me. Her smile froze. "Daniel," she said tightly, "you should have told me." "Surprises are becoming a theme between us," I replied. I handed an envelope, thick, sealed, damning, to the head of the family board. He opened it, read. His expression tightened. Conversations halted. A ripple moved through the room like wind bending a field of wheat. Lara stepped forward, panic sharpening her voice. "What is this?" she snapped. "Proof," I said quietly, "that you manipulated our finances, forced fraudulent signatures, attempted to sabotage my business, and attempted to deny me life-saving treatment to secure your position in the estate." Gasps, murmurs, faces turning. Her mother stepped forward, pale. "Lara, is this true?" Lara's composure cracked. "He's lying. This is a setup." Henrik spoke from behind her. "It's not a lie." She turned to him, betrayed. You went too far," he said, voice trembling. Her world collapsed in slow motion, piece by piece, the way she had dismantled mine. The board members stepped away from her. Donors whispered. Her mother's eyes filled with something colder than the winter air outside. And Lara, once untouchable, Stood alone in the center of the grand hall, trembling. I didn't smile. Revenge isn't about smiling. It's about balance. It's about truth reclaiming the ground it lost. The aftermath was swift. The board stripped her of inheritance rights. Legal proceedings began. Her social circle evaporated. Her mother distanced herself publicly. Every mask Lara had worn crumbled. As for me, I didn't stay to watch her downfall unfold in full. That wasn't necessary. I'd said what I needed to say, done what needed to be done. I left the estate quietly and drove back to Hallstatt. Snow fell over the lake, turning the world quiet, gentle, almost forgiving. Inside my small home, still smelling faintly of pine and smoke, I finally allowed myself to breathe freely. Revenge hadn't healed me, but it had freed me. A week later, I received a letter. From Lara, a final attempt at control or apology. I didn't know. I didn't open it. Instead, I set it on the wood stove, watching the paper curl and blacken as fire consumed it. Some stories don't need epilogues. Some answers don't need to be read. Outside, winter was slowly breaking, hints of spring thawing the edges of the lake. Light returned earlier each morning, soft and forgiving. And for the first time in years, I felt something warm growing inside me. Not love, not hope, just peace. Quiet, steady peace. And that was enough.